Good morning, Fremont family. My name is Dave Flores. Today's devotional is from Mark 15:40 through 16:8. I'll pause for a moment to let you read the verses before I continue. Today's gospel reading speaks about the women's role after the death of Jesus. Mark ends the passage by telling us that the women saw an angel and they were afraid. Mark's abrupt ending speaks for itself. Rather than tell us explicitly what Jesus' death and resurrection means, Mark invites us to consider the women's fear in light of his own. Will we fear? Will we tell no one? Or with the death-defeated power of Christ right in front of us, will we go into the world and preach the gospel? Mark introduces us to three women: Mary from Magdala, Mary, mother of Jesus, and Salome, who have traveled with Jesus from the beginning. They ran from the tomb in fear, telling no one what they had seen. The ending is supposed to shock us, but its goal is to ask us, who is Jesus to me? The women who faithfully followed and served Jesus were the first to witness the empty tomb and hear the news of his resurrection. Their initial response was a mix of alarm, trembling, and astonishment, leading them to temporarily remain silent. This emphasizes the awe and wonder that the resurrection evokes, a profound experience that can leave us speechless. Mark wanted us to know two crucial things about Jesus. First, Jesus was mighty and powerful, something even the demons recognized in fear. Second, despite all of his power, he submitted himself to the will of the Father and went to the cross and ransomed us from the sin and death. Mark knew Jesus was raised from the dead, but he used the women in their bewildered fear to remind us of the resurrection, not because they doubted, but because they believed. He was willing to go to the cross, even though he clearly had the power to prevent it. His dying didn't fit the women's expectations, and they couldn't understand how it could be so. All their hopes had been dashed with his crucifixion, and their lives were ruined with his death. On that Sunday morning in today's verses, however, they found out he had raised from the dead, and they were told this good news by an angel at Jesus' empty tomb. Their lives would forever be changed. After encountering this angel, the women reacted the way any of us would have reacted. The angel told them to go tell the disciples, and eventually they would talk about what they saw. But first, because they were so full of amazement and awe and wonder and even terror and fear, they said nothing to anyone. They were in such a shock over what they saw, and they couldn't say anything but run away in silence. Have you ever been afraid of something that you just started running away? That's what happened to these women. They just seen and talked to an angel and told them that Jesus, the same Jesus that they saw brutally executed 2 days earlier, is no longer dead, but is alive and wants to meet with them. How would you react? You would also be scared and overwhelmed. Mark frequently mentions women in various supporting roles. For example, in Jesus' teaching and the most important events in his life and in his miracles, this suggests that Mark portrays women as significant enough in the Lord's mission, not only to mention them, but to focus on the role of women. Considering the contents of Mark's time, place, and culture in history, that would not have necessarily valued the contribution of women to such a great extent. It's remarkable that Mark would have included so many references to women, underscoring their importance, influence, in relating to a full retelling of life of Jesus based on what he had compiled from oral tradition. The journey from the cross to the empty tomb, as told in Mark 15 and 16, calls for the response with faith that prompts bold action and spirit of amazement of God's power and grace. Grace is available for those who are broken and fearful. Jesus' message to the disciples after his resurrection demonstrates his grace and willingness to restore those who have failed. This same grace extends to anyone who comes to him with their failings and fears. Have you encountered the crucified and risen Jesus? If so, two things will result. You will act boldly for him, and you will be amazed by him. Action and amazement are what happens when we finally see, understand, and cherish Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. With the power of the Holy Spirit, may God the Father give us eyes to see, minds to understand, and hearts to cherish the work of His Son. As we look forward to this coming Sunday's message, may this devotional serve to prepare your hearts and mind for God's spoken word. God bless, and have a great rest of the week.